How's it going, guys? RC Journey here. I wanted to do a quick video and show you guys how easy it was to build this truck at the same time. Now this is the WPL c-14 Hercules. I have the chassis drying right now. You're supposed to start with it and do the links, but we're going to go ahead and go straight to the axles. It's always nice having your axles done and just setting everything right on top of some complete axles. So I wanted to let you guys know, be wary of these white things moving on you. These little bearings, if you will, just white bushings basically. So you want one next to the gear on each side and then one next to the outside. And you can easily see the shape of the gear, how it's supposed to sit in there. So, and also be careful because there's these little prongs sticking off, these little nipples if you will, and you don't want to break those. So you want to be real careful that you don't mess those tiny little prongs up. Those are just going to go right inside, just like that. And I'm not going to click them yet because you'll find out why. So what we're going to do is look at the instructions, see which direction the gear is supposed to be facing. So the flat side of the gear, or if you want to see the short side, is supposed to be like that. So now we know these guys. You want to make sure you get a decent amount of lube around the outside of that, or else it'll create this white dust and be harder for your motor to turn it. Now don't put too much because it'll start attracting dirt, and you don't want that. So you want to put this on this axle like this. Make sure you put it together right, or else it won't go together right. And that's what I like about this truck. It's almost dummy proof. I could have messed up several times, and just based upon how easy the truck is to build, it's almost dummy proof. So get that in the holes and the slots like it's supposed to. Make sure it's facing forward. Alright, so once it looks like that, we go ahead and press down and click everything in spot. Make sure it's right in its place where it needs to go. Make sure everything spins freely. So it's feeling pretty good this far. Now if we take a look at that picture right there, now we know we want the cover of our pumpkin to go on this side. Now, it's real easy to get this wrong, so make sure there's also slots on this as well. Make sure those are going in the correct hole. And then there's holes for the screw as well. And you'll hear a snapping sound. And then everything's nice and snug once it's together right. And then what I do now is put lube all over the gear. A dab will do ya. And now there's a couple ways you can put this on wrong, but for the most part you want to make sure that this tiny gear is on the left side of that. And a small note, I would go ahead and pull this piece apart and then put a little dab of super glue on the back part of this gear and then put it all back together. Because that's one weak link to this RC car, is everything is kind of press fitted together. I don't even think they use glue. So we're going to make sure that gear is on the left side. And before you press it all together, just spin it. Make sure everything kind of seems nice, like it's supposed to. And that way when you press it together, you know everything's together right and you're not smashing those plastic gears together. So for the most part, that's the front axle assembled. Now these go on towards the back, just like this. Everything faces towards the back. So usually what I do next is drop the 4 screws down in there. I'll be very careful not to over tighten this. You'll feel it start to get snug, and then as soon as it pinches that closed, stop. That's why I soak all this plastic in WD-40 so it can absorb it a little bit and have a little bit of give, a little bit of flex to it. Another downside to this RC car is the plastic. It's just cracks real easily, it breaks real easily. So it's better to be safe than to be sorry. Because this stuff is coming from very far away. It took a whole month for this truck to come in. So you got to be a little cautious with what you're doing. So as soon as they're all snug, all 4 of them over the stud, make sure it spins again. Always test it and make sure nothing's bound up in there. So let's look at the instructions again. So with the small side to the left of the axle, small side to the left, this piece goes on facing that way. So these prongs will be towards the drive shaft. And then it gets 4 of those longer screws. And it's worth going through and doing a screw count as well. And making sure you have all your hardware before you get started. You want to match up your screw sizes and how many you have as well. So that way, if you know if anything's wrong, you know it right off the bat. You're not in the middle of building it, and then you find out that you don't have as many screws as you're supposed to have. Because the instructions aren't very, they're very bland. They don't really tell you a lot. They don't tell you how many different size screws or anything you're supposed to have, so be real careful when you're putting this thing together and make sure everything's laid out and where you want it. So when you're done, it should basically end up looking like this. And be real easy with this piece because this isn't easy to replace. As far as I know, I've did my research and you can't just call and order this or any of the links for the WPL C-14 Hercules. So you want to be very careful with this piece, which is another reason why I soaked it all in WD-40. Now I wanted to show you guys these tires. They are very soft. Very soft. Now that's good and bad. Now if you pinch them twice like that, all the way to the rim, they pop off. So you're either going to need to put foam in them and not glue them, or put foam in them and glue them. Whatever works for you guys. But I'm going to use this foam from a blown up tire. I got 2 different sizes. The small for the front and the thick for the back, because I figured probably end up carrying some stuff back there, so I want a little bit thicker in the back. So now next I'll probably end up mounting the links to the chassis and doing the transmission and all of the center mount pieces. So that will probably end up being the next part of the build. is starting off with, well, really the first thing we were supposed to do, and then skipping the axles and jumping right over to the body. It seems like a decent amount of time is going to need to go into putting all the little knickknacks on the body. So, again, thanks for watching.